For this week, I've played a game that I want to review for a very long time. Driv3r. No, I'm not calling it Driv3r. That's just freaking stupid. Perhaps you've heard this game and its infamy. I remember buying it years ago, a few years after it was released actually, and enjoying it a bit, but at the same time getting frustrated at later parts of the game. After watching Guru Larry's video on the backstory of Driv3r's history, of which I would highly recommend and will link in the comments, I decided to play this game again. Coming back to it now, I still enjoyed it for a bit of time, but near the tail end of the story, I couldn't wait for it to be over. As in the previous Driver games, you play as Tanner, an undercover cop who happens to be an excellent driver. He aims to stop an underground car smuggling ring by joining it firsthand and revealing key details to law enforcement. This puts him at odds with both his police friends and his newfound pals in the theft group. We meet more people like Tanner's partner Jones, the aggressive Khalida, and the normal villain of the series, Jericho. When you get down to it, the game should have had an entertaining plot, but sadly, it falls flat. This is because the scenes that you're shown seem haphazard and put together at random. It felt like after every mission, I was left scratching my head at whatever cutscene I was shown, thinking, what happened here and what am I supposed to remember from the previous mission? Maybe it's me, but I just felt lost in regards to plot, and therefore had little interest in what was going on. As I said, this is disappointing because I really felt like there was a lot of potential here. I guess the best way to sum it up is to say that it's like you're watching a movie, but have to take a bathroom break every 5 minutes and can't pause it. So since the story sorta sucks, let's hope that everything else with the game is worth the price of admission. Well, only sorta. Let me talk about the gameplay. If you played the previous 2 games in the series, you kind of get the same thing. Playing as Tanner, you focus on driving a vehicle around, avoiding law enforcement, gangsters, and generally totaling your car. In the second game, the mechanic to actually leave your vehicle was introduced, and that gets carried over into Driv3r. So if the car you're driving gets too damaged to drive reliably, you can just hop out and run to the nearest automobile that happens to be unlucky enough to be near you. There's a pretty respectable amount of vehicles in the game, so at least you won't get bored driving the same car around. In addition, there's 3 cities to drive around in. You have Miami, Florida, Nice, France, and Istanbul, Turkey. By default, you have Miami and Nice unlocked, and then about 2/3 of the way into the story, you'll be able to play Istanbul in the free drive mode. Did I mention free driving? I'll get to that later. But back to the main gameplay. You drive around, you get out of your car to run around, and in a first for the series, you can now shoot. That's right, to try mimicking GTA, Tanner now carries a variety of firearms to take down thugs. And this is a good thing because the game likes to throw a lot of enemies at you in most missions. In addition, these guns now give you an opportunity to evade law enforcement. Let's say that you're getting chased and your police meter is maxed. So this is what you do. You can get out of your car, shoot down the police, and then find a new vehicle. Since no officer could witness the theft, you're able to drive away easily. You may need this in missions where you cannot end the mission with a wanted level. But then again, there's some oddities to the shooting controls. For one, they feel way too stiff. Trying to get an accurate shot off is nearly impossible, especially if aiming for a headshot. Secondly, the controls themselves are fairly awkward. Maybe I'm just used to GTA, but here's how it works. You press triangle to holster or equip the weapon. You press R1 to fire the weapon, which is okay. L2 crouches. And if you want to enter or exit a vehicle, you press L1. I can't tell you how many times I've pressed triangle to enter a car and to instead whip out a gun and freak out the bystanders. Oh, and you have to press square to cycle through all of your weapons. Yeah, no matter how many weapons you have, you can only go through them one way. Ugh. And third, and possibly the most annoying, the game's auto-aim is atrocious. You'd think in a console game where the aiming is so damn stiff that you'd enjoy this feature. But here, you miss more shots than hit because the game will automatically attempt to aim dead center at your victims. So if you're looking for a headshot, forget it. In addition, if you are near a low wall and have an enemy, sometimes that auto-aim won't bring the crosshair up high enough, making the majority of your bullets strike the wall. So yeah, I disabled the auto-aim shortly into the game. Another thing is that there's only one way to get ammo in the game, by picking up the weapons your corpses leave behind. And that's fine, a lot of games do that. But here's the catch. The bodies don't stay around very long. And what makes this suck is that the weapons they drop go away with them. So if you're in a heavy firefight and find yourself running low, but enemies are still around, you have to weigh what you need more, ammo or your health. Most of the time, you'll opt for your health because, well, you do have that pistol with infinite ammo, as long as you don't mind it being a pistol. All of this is a shame, because the game places a lot heavier focus on gunfights and overall action than the previous entries in the series. You'll be replaying missions multiple times just because the gunfights just aren't as smooth as GTA. Sorry guys, I'll try to minimize comparisons to GTA from here on out, but it's just difficult to do so no guarantees. But surely, the driving must be better, right? Well, it's very similar to previous games. Driv3r takes a much more realistic approach, so you can't just rip around corners at full speed and maintain control. That I'm perfectly fine with. But there are some issues. Okay, mostly one. Collisions. I get that a car can't go over a tree, but why can't a motherfucking tractor trailer drive over a streetlight? Come on, I find that hard to believe. But even with that minor complaint, you still have the trailing missions, where you have to trail or even chase someone. If you are just slightly behind that person, your mission will fail. I remember the original 2 games being hardcore and not letting you lose the guy you're following. But in this game, you can literally still see the enemy on the screen, but if they're more than a tenth of a freaking mile away, you'll lose the mission. This is just infuriating. The creators of the game should really have given you a bit more leeway with this, as if you can see the damn car, you should be able to chase it. It's not like the traffic is going to confuse you, because the game's traffic never gets that bad. At least the game introduces street bikes to the game. Except they're not street bikes, they're mobile vacuums. At least, that's what they sound like to me. Listen. Vacuum. Nothing else to say on that. I will say that the vehicles do have some satisfying damage details to them. Hoods will fly off, tires will pop, bolt holes will riddle your car. And when they blow up, they will explode into pieces. And if you're still in the car, actually it's even better. In fact, some of the ragdoll effects are pretty hilarious at times. In fact, I got to see in this game that Tanner had a background in acrobatics. I got rammed in a vacuum, got a ton of airtime, and still somehow landed on my feet perfectly. I gave that a 10 because he stuck the landing. So what kind of missions do you get to play in Driv3r? Well, you have standard drive from point A to point B in a certain time limit. You get to shoot thugs, sometimes inside buildings. You get to do a lot of tailing, which, again, pissed me off most of the times. And that's about it. There are a few missions where the time is a bit more critical though. Such as this mission where you have to drive to a vehicle that's wanted, hijack it, drive it into a trailer, get off, and quickly hijack another car to reach the next vehicle that needs to be loaded. This mission is, I think, where I stopped playing the first time I played the game because the 6-minute time limit just didn't feel like enough. It just came down to memorization to find where the best roadways are to travel, along with the plain shit luck in getting a vehicle within only a few seconds of dumping the car in the trailer. Of which I must add that Tanner drives up the trailer, gets out, and just appears on the road. Let me move on to the free play, which happens to be one of the more favorable parts of the game. You just pick a car, time of day, city, and starting point, and drive. That's it. If you want to cause chaos and mayhem, you can do so. It's all at your pace and you can do whatever you want. Unless you die, of course, but then you can just start it over. And you can also do this with friends, too, if you really have somebody that wants to play this with you. But if you were only going solo and really wanted something to do, there are 2 collectibles of sorts that you can find. Each city has 3 hidden vehicles. Most of them are hidden extremely well, and you can come across them by accident, or have a guide pointing you in the right direction. Even with a guide or map, they can still be hard to pinpoint. And the whole purpose of finding these vehicles is just to be able to use them in free roam. And they're locked to the city that you find them in. I guess I should have mentioned that each city has its own set of vehicles. Oh well, better late than never, I suppose. Second, you can find a character by the name of Timmy Versetti. Yes, that's a poke at GTA Vice City's Tommy Versetti. He's heavily armed and will shoot you on sight. Your best bet is to explore a little bit to find an area that will give you at least some protection, and then fire an assault rifle at him for a little while. There's 10 of these bastards in each city, and once you clear a city of threats, you'll unlock a special mission of sorts by finding a certain zone on the map. Once you do, you're given a mission. Personally, I don't think it's worth the effort. But then again, I didn't find all of the Timmys in any city, so I can't really say for sure. All I know is I got bored driving around to each location just to shoot one guy in the head 10 times. Let's move on to the visuals. I didn't think they were too bad at first, but they do feel more mediocre as you play the game. It's like everything is washed out, and you won't often see new set pieces. You're driving around 3 cities with only slightly different environments. Plus, the graphics seem to struggle to keep up with loading when you're driving around at fast speeds. As such, buildings and other objects have some pretty severe pop-up, with some objects spawning in mere seconds before you crash into them. That's a pretty hefty issue. At least the overall loading times of the game are pretty quick. But then again, you do have the cutscenes, which do look decent enough. Sadly, you can't skip them though, no matter what. At least there's some pretty big name people voicing the characters. Michael Madsen returns as Tanner, Michelle Rodriguez voices Kalita, and the evil villain Jericho is backed by Mickey Rourke. Well, at least we don't have to hear any sort of Rogue Warrior quotes here. God, that game was freaking bad. Anyway, overall, the voice acting is pretty solid, which is a great thing to say about a game whose era still had some hit or miss voice acting. Overall, Driv3r isn't an awful game, but it's definitely flawed. The difficulty of the missions are all over the place, the story is hard to follow, the shooting control is incredibly stiff, and the cities are kind of flat. But I still got a strange sense of enjoyment out of it, maybe just because I wanted to see the game to the end. Thankfully, the final mission has a good share of checkpoints, because it's just batshit crazy with the amount of carnage that occurs. If you enjoy open world games where you drive around a lot, give this one a shot if you can find it cheap, which really shouldn't be difficult nowadays. Oh, and for the record, I didn't find this game as glitchy as many videos and articles seem to make it out to be. Maybe I just got a good copy or something, or maybe I just didn't hunt around for the glitches. Either way, it felt somewhat solid enough for me, other than some minor things here and there, so it's definitely didn't feel like the glitchiest messed out there. I still think that honor goes to Sonic 06. Final score, 6 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.